Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pleasure Prescriptions, sensual sessions that are good for the soul. I am Doc Phoenix, and I am happy to be here today with Jami Jackson, who is a fresh, fresh sex coach. And she has gotten into my bed to talk about all kinds of things. So this is kind of her coming out. Yeah, so we're gonna get into it. So I'll let her introduce herself and the angle in which she'd like to go, and we're gonna flow from there. So
okay,
all on you.
Okay, so we're gonna just go with it, just like that, huh?
That's it.
No
That's
Vaseline.
it. No Vaseline.
All right. Okay. So I am Jami Jackson. As Doc Phoenix just said, I am a newly certified sex coach. I am also an educator, and I am also a licensed and ordained minister. So I have many talents, but I think that's the angle that we're going to kind of take today.
All right. And we have a few parallels when it comes to that. I am also an educator, sex coach as well, sexologist, which I know is soon to come for you because I know the path that you want to take.
Yes.
But I know for me personally, it's been difficult to navigate the realm of education for one, because I'm still in the educational world, and like what I'm tapping more into what I consider to be my purpose, and that's with sex. But you have a whole nother layer added on top. And a fun fact about me, and some people do know, I did finish Bible school. So I went to 3 years, but I love learning. But never once was I ordained. I know my papa, before he passed, used to say, when are you going to become a minister? And like now, I joke and I tell my family and people, I just told my daddy recently, I was like, this is my ministry. Because it is a ministry, but it's not in the traditional sense that people look at it. And I guess, when we think about ministry, some people would even go as far as possibly saying like you playing with church or something like that. Yeah. When I think oftentimes people don't realize that your spirituality, your whatever is personal to you.
Right.
And it depends on like who you are, what you've experienced, and the walk that you want to take. So by no means is it a mockery. And those two things can exist. Like we're not just one thing. We're multifarious beings. We live on a spectrum. So there's definitely a way that you can be all of those things and be seriously dedicated to all of that and following your calling. So I just want to ask you what. I mean, you do have to talk to me.
I do.
And I know this is kind of hard for you because, like I said, this is your coming out. So this is.
And just being in front of the camera, y'all know how. But we're here.
Breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. So I want to ask you, what made you want to become a certified sex coach?
Oh, man. I think it kind of really all started with me. So first of all, I kind of want to backtrack on the comment you made. It was like your grandfather actually like, when you gonna become a minister? Like, who really wants to be a minister? Right? It's like one of those things where it's like, who really says that I'm gonna be a minister when I grow up? Like, nobody does, and I think it's like the same thing. So it's like being a sex coach was not in my plan, honestly. My journey really started on becoming more self-aware by myself. Because I attend there go that we're not doing the counter, okay. But it's okay. So it started about me wanting to be more self-aware, more comfortable in my body, knowing more about myself, and pretty much unlearning the things that were like imposed on me. Because as we grow up in our youth, we have things that are imposed on us. What you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. Like that's not becoming of a lady. You're not supposed to do that. So I wanted to be in a space where I wanted to know who I was. Like, I was like, God, like, who am I? And I've just been blessed and graced to be on that journey of learning those things. And of course, still taking some of the things that I was taught and just dissecting them for myself and really internalizing them for myself instead of somebody telling me, this is what you are, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to be. So that's kind of where it started. Uh, and where it went from there, it's just like we're here,
We're here.
we're here. But also, seeing, and like I say, I'm in ministry, seeing a lot of what happens in like relationships with people that are in, you know, Christian world, hearing about some of the issues that are happening. I'm just like, why don't we talk about sex? Like, why is there such a taboo topic when sex is not, if God created it, why it's not a bad thing, right?
Right.
So, so just kind of, and of course, a sister want to be married one day. So I love to learn. I like to put myself in a position of, being that girl. I'm just playing, but I do like to learn, and I definitely want to be in a position where I'm ready.
Okay.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so I know kind of in your intro you mentioned that it wasn't necessarily the path you
Hmm.
intended to take.
Right.
As many of us don't, because I feel like it is a calling.
Yeah.
This is not work that's meant for everyone on
Everybody.
either side of this. So in
Right.
asking that, like, are you how are you becoming that person and integrating like all these different sides of you and just being truly authentic to each one of those?
I think in it comes easy in a sense because I've always, so when I was in grade school, apparently, and as awkward as I come off as sometimes and standoffish, I've always been a talker.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a person that wanted to help people like solve their issues, especially when I look back on some of the things that I've been through, some personal things. It's like, dang, I wish I had that teacher in my life, or I wish I had that person, or I wish I had that support system, or somebody that like kept it real with me about some of these issues and these things. So being able to integrate all of the things together, because everybody always needs somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
People always need somebody to consult with. People always need somebody that they need advice from. So I've just always wanted to kind of put myself in a position to provide people with resources or the correct information or whatever help that they need, and I want to be as knowledgeable as I can with those things. Again, we have being an educator. Babies having babies.
Mm.
Like kids are they doing stuff that I'm like, what is that? Like, what is happening? So being able to be a person to kind of guide young people in a way of like doing things safely, or um, even allowing people to know like, hey, you're valued. Like, you don't need somebody else to value you. Your body is your body, and that's okay. Different bodies come in different ways, and it doesn't mean because your body looks this way doesn't mean it's less valuable than the other person's body, right? uh, so integrating those things is really, it's not as hard as people think it is. Like, ministers, kids, like we're all going through life. We pretty much all going through some of the same things. So it's really not hard to integrate those things at all.
You
It's,
being
it's
naturally
just
you
yeah, just
and showing up as that person, like
that's,
you said, you wish you had.
yeah,
Because one thing we know that people are fucking, like no matter
they
what walk of
are.
life, and we can try and pretend like the youth aren't having sex,
Hmm.
but we know this to be true based on statistics.
Yeah.
And so, not that you are seeking to prevent them or tell them not to have
Hmm.
sex, but I feel like there are things we need to know very early on and be as informed as
Right.
possible to make the appropriate decisions. And I think a lot of times, if we try and make sex so taboo or make it seem
Hmm.
like it's this, and that, instead of just talking about it and
Yeah.
demystifying stuff with kids, I think
Yeah.
once we start to like normalize those talks,
Hmm.
and when I say normalize them, I mean talking as early as like little kids. I have
Yeah.
talks with my nephews,
Hmm.
and I always talk to their mom first before I talk to them about anything.
Right.
But as simple as knowing like your body parts, knowing good touch versus bad touch, and as you
Absolutely.
get older, making that curriculum appropriate to things they can understand,
Right.
because they need to know about their anatomy. They
Yeah.
need to know how to take care of themselves sexually. They need to know if they are going to engage the way that they can do it as safe as possible. They need to understand that this is a
Yeah,
huge mental undertaking
absolutely.
that you're probably not even prepared for, but you can be a little bit more prepared if you decide to do it by doing this. So there are so many different facets that I know that I feel like when you start very early on, and I'm talking from experience because
Right.
I started very early on, and in retrospect, you don't realize how powerful and big sex is, and that
Yeah.
you are probably really not prepared. So to be able to have someone safe and educated and
Yeah.
knowledgeable to come to, and they feel like they could talk, may
Yeah.
not stop them from doing it,
Yeah.
but it possibly equips them to be as safe and as
Yeah.
empowered as possible to make the best decisions. So I think that's amazing.
And think about it, kids are more prone to experiment than we do when we get older. I think when we get older, we're kind of like more conscious, we're more cautious to a certain extent. But kids will put their hand in a fire,
Literally.
literally, and not know what it is. So it kind of translates like if and of course all over like social media and TV, like sex is literally everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? So with kids, like they're going to try so they're more prone to trying these things than most adults pretty much are, right? And that kind of moves into where couples, you find couples having issues, divorce rates are high and things like that. And I've heard couples say, "Oh well, she wants to try this, but he doesn't want to try this." Right? So look at how that big of a difference in like the age. So I think it is. I agree. I think it is really important to provide those conversations, and even if parents need help having the conversations with the kids, is truly important. I can remember. Oh my God, I cannot believe if I tell this story
Let's hear it.
on. Okay, so I was in a youth group years ago. So everybody, I think most people are familiar with Bethany's youth group, and so it was. I forgot what the message was this particular day, but me and this guy called myself having a boyfriend. Wasn't supposed to have a boyfriend. And we ended up kissing. Y'all was I was so green. I'm a late bloomer, so let's just put that out there. I am such a late bloomer, and for whatever reason, they just make you feel like, oh my God, I gotta tell my mama I kissed this boy. Like it was like I had sex and I was pregnant or something like that. So I told my mom, and so the next day when I got home from school, like I was so distraught, like I had just, I don't know, like I had just let my whole family down or something.
Because you kissed the
I
boy.
was I was so freaking dramatic. So the next day I get home, and Ruby's gonna kill me for telling the story. I got home and she had like pamphlets on my bed of like pregnancy and STDs. I think I had to be like maybe 15 years old. And I was like, so at that moment, so in retrospect, it made me realize like how hard it was for her, but maybe to have that
Mm-hmm.
conversation with me. So it's not that she didn't want to, but it might have been just a difficult thing for her to have that conversation. And of course, being brought up in church is don't have sex before you marry. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this. Not. Um, so it was just kind of like, how do I have this conversation? She was like, well, I'm gonna make her read. No fault of her own, but she was figuring out like most of us are. So that was an interesting time, and I personally would have enjoyed or felt better about a sit down conversation with my mom. So I think parents like, and I'm not a parent, I don't know, and some parents do have these conversations with their kids, but I do think it's really really important because you start disconnecting, and you want your child to be able to come and say, "Hey, look, this is happening. I'm feeling this in my body, and I don't know what to do with it." And sometimes they're just like they're ashamed, they're embarrassed. Like, how do I tell my parents this?
Right.
But that's supposed to be your safest space. Is home.
And you brought a very good point. And I know you said it's supposed to be your safest space, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we look at parents like they should know everything.
Right.
When we do
Right.
know that parenting, life
Yeah.
itself does not come with a rule book.
At all.
So parents oftentimes, no matter how we may look at them, they're doing the best that they can.
Absolutely.
And they may not have been taught certain things, or they may be struggling with their own sexuality,
Right.
their own emotional health.
Right.
So now I have
Absolutely.
this little person who, I'm supposed to be their safe space,
Yeah.
but I don't even know what to tell them.
Yeah.
So we do have to realize and give
Mm-hmm.
parents grace as well, and be
Absolutely.
as resourceful as we can, because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes they're just doing the best that they can.
Or they feel like it works for me and this is how I was raised, so it should work. If it's not, it's like a if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of
Right.
thing. But like you said, there's no real rule book.
Yeah. And the thing about it, I mean, we could go back to, I mean, definitely I know where I was and what I was doing at 15. But we could go back from there to now, and I'll be 44 in November,
Mm-hmm.
and just the outlook on sex,
Right.
sexuality, the way these kids are coming up, understanding sex, being exposed to so much sex.
Going on 2 mans, I didn't know what that was. T- 2 mans, 3 mans, and I'm like, what is that? And they thought that was the funniest thing, that I didn't know what that was.
I mean, the world is just so different. Like, we are speaking a different language sexually. And I think about just from the sexuality realm. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my nephew was 10, and he came to me, and it was the cutest thing. And of course, I called his mom and asked if it was okay that we discussed. But he was like, T, what do you think about polyester relationships? And I'm like, polyester? I said, polyamory? And so he was like, yeah. And I was like, where'd you even get that from?
Polly and that else.
Polyester. That's what my boy wanted to know about, polyester relationships. So, him coming to me at 10 years old, asking me about polyamorous relationships, when I would say I was his age, I had no clue what that was. Even though I'm
Right.
reading on sex very early on,
Right.
probably started around the age of 8, had no clue what that was. Like, they're coming into like gender fluidity and just
Right.
a whole different ball game. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about parents who, we are kind of far removed from them, and there are people our age with children, within the
Right.
age range.
Right.
Like putting a pamphlet on the bed is not going to be that effective, for them. And it's we need to know a whole different language. So
Yeah.
it is great to have people like you and myself and other
Yeah.
people within the sexual world to help equip these parents and
Absolutely.
teach them, because we
Absolutely.
don't want to look down on them and judge because they don't know better. They may have
Right.
not been taught better,
Right.
but it's our personal charge. Well, I feel like it's my personal charge, and I'm sure you feel the same,
Mm-hmm.
to help educate and equip them as best as
Absolutely.
possible.
And like you said, even adults, with them, even outside of helping to equip them to educate their kids, but in their own relationships.
Mm.
So not just equipping them for that, but I mean, they have questions about, well, how do I like, how do we go from this everyday mundane thing, and what are some things that we can do? So they need help in various aspects.
They do,
Mhm.
and people like you are there to help
I guess, yeah,
them.
yeah. I mean, and I have had conversations with people, and I'm grateful for it, to be able to help save some relationships. And so it feels good, because I love love. I am a fan of love. So when things work out for people, I that makes me feel good. That makes me happy, and to be able to be just a vessel to aid in that makes me feel really good.
All right, so I know we're gonna kind of be going back and forth because you have a lot of great things going
Mm-hmm.
on, but I'm curious about the way your role as a certified sex coach. How how do you plan on, because I know this is kind of new
Mm-hmm.
territory, even though
Yes.
you've been doing the work, but now putting that certified sex coach behind it and navigating the world of ministry. How do you feel like those two things can complement each other versus
Mm-hmm.
being like, this is one thing I have to be, and that's another thing I have to be? How can you make those things work together?
I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that we are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand that our bodies were created to work a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those feelings that we feel in our bodies not going to go away, right? Like that's the reality of it.
Can't pray it away.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. No, you cannot pray it away. This is how our bodies were made. This is how our bodies were made to function. And I'm so glad that I've digested that, and I've accepted that now. But with bringing those two things together, I think it's important that we talk about sex and church and ministry. Like it is a ministry, right? My pastor, he makes me laugh because he was like, what is that he says? Uh, sex is something about sex. Okay, we might have to cut that one because I can't remember what he says about it. I forgot. Okay, rewind. All right. But bringing those two together, um, I have already seen how it has helped people in that are in ministry, that are in church, that have questions about, well, what should I do? Like, how do I talk to my partner, my spouse about trying these different things? Like, is it okay for me to try these things? I'm like, yes. Like, why not? Like, why do you think it's so, you know, like it's a certain way that you have to do things, right? I think about that movie. Was it Temptation or Obsession? One of the Tyler Perry movies where Jussie Smollett's sister, Journey, whatever
Uh-huh.
her name is, and she was married. And when her husband would come in, she would want to try something like different, or she wanted to have sex in the kitchen or whatever. He's like, baby, let's just go to the bedroom. Like he was just like, let's go to the bedroom. Now, not saying the ends justify the means, which ended up causing her to step
Okay,
out,
I remember that one.
right? So she was getting all these things that she wanted from her husband, right? Um, and I mean, that's what she wanted when she could have just been getting it at home. So a lot of times, and this speaks to something I had to do, even learn going to classes, being a sex coach, you have to get out of yourself. You have to get out of yourself sometimes. Like, of course, we do look to ourselves, um, to what I want to say. We have to be very self-aware. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
say that. But also, when you have a partner, somebody that's involved in your life, it's important that you guys communicate and connect on a level. And I think that's what we lack, just period in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like even outside of sex and pleasure and all those things, I think we as people we lack communication. And a lot of times we lack communication. Why? Because we're going to feel judged.
Mm.
So that's one big thing that I think connects the ministry aspect and the sex and pleasure is um, recognizing you have a voice. Use your voice. Like you're important. You're just as important as this other person. um we also, like I said, judgment, we judge each other so hard, which makes it so hard for people to even open up to say, hey, like I want to talk about this thing, but I'm having a fear of being judged, and it shouldn't be like that at all. So I think it's so many levels that this thing connects on, right? It's self-awareness, it's communication, it's not people not feeling judged, right? So I think that's kind of how I kind of, and I know it's so many more connections that I'm gonna make with this, and it's just amazing to see those connections being
Very, very, very much so true.
made.
All right, so a word I've heard you, or phrase I've heard you throw out a few times just since we've been talking, has been self awareness. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your personal journey and how your self awareness will help you to like reach others? So, I guess
Mhm.
kind of the process of you becoming self aware, which I feel like it's a constant journey. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think you ever just arrive and you are this thing.
No.
It's a journey, it's work, it's communication, it's so many other things. So, I want to hear a little bit more about, just kind of how the sexual world and the things that you
Yes.
enjoy help you with self awareness and how you plan on bringing your personal experiences into your professional realm.
Well, I will say this: social media lies. You do not have to be a certain size or shape to be liked
Oh,
and to be, I mean, to feel just beautiful and sexy,
can you
right?
repeat that one? Can you repeat that one, please?
Social media has lied to people. You do not have to be small in the waist, big booty, big breasts. Like, let me tell you something, baby. It's look, people out there that's gonna love you how you love you. But first, you have to love you. Like you have to accept yourself for who you are, because what you feel on the what you on the inside is gonna come out, right? A lot of people call it law of attraction, all those things. But how I started, so um, man, so the first thing was, um, oh God, how did I start? How did I start? How did I start? Brain fart. Um, just even in the journey of becoming a sex coach. So one of the things that we had to do was sensual shadow work, y'all.
What is that? Okay, so you have to
Oh,
pause and tell the people what sensual shadow work is.
okay. So let me try to describe this as best I can. So it's the process of basically, so before we even take in clients, we have to be able to do the work on ourselves, because we can't help nobody else, can work help ourselves, right? So sensual shadow work is the process of like identifying those traumas, those shadows, those things like behind the scenes or in the back of our head that are holding us back from being this wonderful, great, confident person that doesn't have to seek validation from outside sources to feel justified or validated, or to feel good and to feel confident. So when the first week when I had to do shadow work, and it was kind of like, okay, so I want you to write down all the things that you say about yourself, all the negative things. I was like, what? I have to write them down? What? I'm like, oh my God. And it was like you have to say them to yourself in the mirror. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's something serious, y'all. But it was at that moment, it was just like, girl, you can do this. Like you can do this. And the empowerment that I felt from it. Like even just going to work, people were like, okay, you seem a little different, because I don't care nothing about what none of y'all got to say about me. And I also took a sabbatical off of social media as well too. Because while you're working on those things, you want to reinforce with positivity, right? So I knew I wasn't strong enough to get on social media without looking like, dang, I need to get my body right. But I always hear you say, like, we should be grateful for what our bodies do for us. And I was like, dang, that's for real. Our bodies do some really amazing things.
They do
for us. So I just got tired of comparing myself. I got tired of trying wanting to be and look like somebody else, because it was miserable. It was awful. It felt terrible. But then it was like God was like, Jamie, there's somebody that you are, that you need to open up and be. Like, I always tell you, like, I want to be in the background. I don't want to be in front. I don't want to do all the things. But Central Shadow Work's like, why? Central Shadow Work asks, why don't you want to be in the forefront? What has been said that makes you say, or makes you feel like you're not worthy to be in the forefront or on camera? What are the things? And that's what shadow work is, like going back and making you really pinpoint what are those things that make you feel that way. And then once you look at it, it's like, well, that was really shallow of me. Held myself back for what? And then when you start looking at it, it's because sometimes because of other people. Other people don't have to live your life. Other people don't have to walk this walk for you. Nobody's gonna come and save you.
And those other people are also probably dealing with their own insecurities.
Exactly.
Wishing they could be a different way. Possibly
Yes.
not. I won't even say not wanting to do the work, not even knowing what work needs to be done. Just perpetuating traumas.
Yes.
Just not being self aware.
Yes.
So sometimes I'm not even say sometimes, like I think about A Return to Love, that Marian Anderson
Yes,
Williamson
my
poem.
favorite.
I love it, and I
Our
can never
deepest
quote.
fear.
Is that we are? It's not that we are inadequate. It's that we are powerful beyond measure. But it does have that one part about you playing small does not basically help others. Like you're not serving or walking in your purpose when you play small, and that does take a certain sense of self awareness. And I ain't gonna sit up here and act like that shit ain't easy, because we did go through the same certification. When I did my sensual shadow work, we went through Pleasure Masters Institute. Shout out to Eva, Michelle, and Dorico for doing an amazing job. Great instructors. But I remember I was actually going to Sex Down South. So it was right around this time of year. I was going to Sex Down South, and we had to get a white t shirt and write all of the things that we've been told on our t shirt. And I was still trying to do life, catching up. And so the day that I needed to wear my t shirt was the day that I was traveling to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So the majority of the time I was in the vehicle. But once I got to the hotel, forgetting that I even have this shirt with all kind of things that I think about myself, basically untruths, things I needed to unlearn. Mm-hmm. I had the shirt on, and the receptionist like read it out loud, and I'm like, "What is she talking about?" And I completely forgot that I had that shirt on, and I still have my shirt because you can't heal, you can't become whole, you can't help others until you hold that mirror to yourself, until you get ugly with yourself and understand that, yeah, this shit is a lie. Like, the shit I've been told is a lie. And this trauma is not even worth us holding on to. And we hear trauma a lot. And when we think of trauma in the sexual realm, we'll usually think about like sexual assault, or we'll think about like rape or something like that, when that's not always the case. Like, we are sometimes holding on to things that are not serving us at all, making us play small, making us feel unworthy when that's not the truth. And you brought up something, I can remember an untruth I told myself very early on. And I won't even say it was just social media. Right. But before there was social media, there were magazines, there were videos, there was porn. And so I remember looking in these magazines, because remember, I started reading about this stuff very early on. And I only saw a certain type of woman. And I've always been plus size. So I can remember thinking to myself, I clearly remember having this thought as a teenager. I was like, oh, I want to lose weight so somebody can eat me, because that's what I see in porn. Right. I don't see any big women engaging in oral sex or whatever. So this was something stuck in my head that I figured I had to be a certain size, when in reality, and I ain't saying don't have worth in yourself, but somebody will spread them big ass legs open and go to town. And some people out there, they want you to sit your big ass on their face. And like, the people be like, did you die? Or if you die, you die. So there is something out there. And not just that you have to do anything for anyone else. Right. But understand that you love yourself enough, and someone out there sees value in you as well. But that also takes you doing the work yourself, and becoming self-aware and self-actualized. So
I agree. I think that was because I was always heavy set as well coming up, and it's just interesting how everybody would always point that out. It's like, I'm not intelligent. Like, why is this such a big deal? So as we get older, like, we make it a big deal. Like, maybe this is more important than me being smart. Maybe this is more important than, me being talented. Like, you can't see past this size. So that was definitely a big deal. And like, baby, let me tell y'all something. Saved as I am, I I have had guys be like, girl, so what's up? Like, what? Do you know how much I weigh? I don't care nothing about that. It's like, whoa, And so I even realized that going to college, high school, people are shallow in high school. So I got to college, and it was like a whole nother world. It was just like all these guys. It was so overwhelming. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I did not go into Southern University Student Union my whole first year of college. Oh, my whole first year. Girl, I couldn't take it. It was so overwhelming because I wasn't used to all of that attention. So I'm just like, how do I even? And I still didn't even learn how to get through it then. Like, I'm actually and let me tell y'all this, it doesn't matter how old you are. It don't matter how old I'm 41 now. And I think I want to say maybe some years, well, maybe about 2 years ago, I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I have to unlearn some things. I have to become this person, like you said in the poem we were talking about, is that we play it small so that others can feel comfortable. Ooh. All right. And it's so uncomfortable. I'm just like, okay, Lord, why is this so uncomfortable for me? Because you're trying to play it small, and you're not. It's not what none of us are. None of us are. We're always trying to be so accommodating of other people trying to make them feel comfortable. And it's like, and it started just kind of like, it felt like something like on the inside of you just want to burst open and it's just like trying to get out. That's how I felt. I'm just like, and it got so uncomfortable, like, okay, I have to do something about this. Like there's something else that I need to do. Like I'm playing this small, yeah, I like playing the background. It's cool, but I always feel like there's more. And I've always been an unconventional person. So the shock factor is I always like the shock factor. I do. I like the shock factor. So yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are, you could still unlearn some things.
And unlearning is important. Like a lot of times we feel like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to read this book, or I need to get in this program, or I need to do this and that so I can learn. But
Mm-hmm.
we don't realize that we're sometimes holding on to things that no longer serve us, that just don't make any
That.
more sense, that we've evolved into different people, that
Yes.
we need to clear up our mind of some of these
Yes.
things that are like holding us back. So the
Yes.
more we talk, the more I understand even the parallel between like what you said, because I think that was very powerful, and I don't know that I ever looked at it like that.
Yeah.
Like, did you really choose this route? Did you really choose to be a sex coach? Because here's another
Right.
thing. I could see how when people in ministry, because you, I want to say, are more visible because
Mm-hmm.
you've chosen to actually stand up and do the work, which means you're going to be looked at more and criticized
Yes.
more. And doing one is already one. And then doing something that somebody would consider to be on the totally different side of
Oh
it,
my goodness.
that is something you would probably want to run from
And
dually.
oh gosh. And I
And
have
then you got your other stuff in between.
yes.
So you're being looked at, or we're being looked at and judged on several different
Mm-hmm.
aspects. So I can see why you would say that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
did I really choose this? Because honestly, I know personal conversations, like, both of us are fairly early on in our journey.
Mm-hmm.
And we've decided to take the call, but
Yeah.
we know that these things are not always looking. We know everybody fucking, like, in the church, out of the church, young, old,
Baby, you gotta make somebody mad.
black, cripple, crazy.
Baby, if you mad, she might be talking about you.
We know that people fucking. We know that for sure.
I mean, that's true.
But when you put it on the forefront, you become this thing, like this entity, like
Yeah,
to be judged and talked about.
like you the one you causing so much chaos and shame on you.
When all we out here trying to do is just
Telling the truth.
that's it. That's it.
Just telling the truth. So
So in essence, I would see why you would say, "Oh man, that just really hit home." Because honestly, I will say, if I'm being 100% honest, within the past few weeks, that has been something I've been battling with, because I do feel like this is my calling. I feel like this is my purpose. I feel so purposeful when I get up and I get to talk to people, or when people have messaged me saying, "Thank you for doing this," or creating a safe space. Like, I feel a strong sense of purpose. But to know that this sense of purpose that I feel may have me looked upon like a certain way, may have me looked upon like I'm wearing a scarlet letter, when we're all doing the same thing,
that part
is
perfect.
is kind of tough. And I will say, it has really had me doubting my journey. And I mean, just recently. So thank you for holding the mirror for me and making that shit hit home. And I ain't trying to make this about me, but when you said it in the beginning, I honestly, I heard you say it, but I just heard you say it and it was fleeting. But the more you talk, the more I understood. Like, yeah.
And it has been difficult, and I was a little apprehensive. I'm like, girl, do you really want people to know this? Do you really want, And of course, you still think about, like, okay, the judgment, like, what are going to be the comments? But what I do understand, what I do realize, if we kind of look back on decisions that we've made and steps that we made, the support has always outweighed the naysayers or whoever. But of course, like I said, I am a strong believer, and one of the things that I live by, I love the verse where it says God uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, which means you think you're smart, but you don't have it all figured out. You don't know what direction your life is going to go in, but it's for you to answer the call. Like, and I'm just like, okay, well, God, why me answer the call? I answer. Cool. We have in ministries, we have uh, the widows funds, and the different, we have the youth, the singles, the married people, but where is the outsourcing the resources? Because guess what? Christians need therapy too. Like we need mental health is a real thing.
And one thing we have bad is just talking about praying it away.
We do, and we do, and that's something that we don't talk about, that we don't discuss. It's okay to go see a professional. Like there is always going to be a healthcare professional or a mental health professional that caters to what you need and that you can agree on, but they're still gonna call you out and hold you accountable to certain things. So I think that we kind of limit the resources in church when this is one of the things that people, everybody can very much so use.
Well, it's no secret because you said it earlier. You said you want to be married, and I
Yes.
know here's yet another thing that I can
Mm-hmm.
personally. I'm currently like not in the church, but
Right.
I know that there are like singles ministries,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure we know that these single people are having sex, but it's probably not to be talked about within the church. I feel like if you were in the church as a married woman, your message would be more accepted and fine. But you trying to come in as a single woman,
Mm-hmm.
not married, I mean, with experiences and
Well,
certifications and
listen,
things that could tell you, you certified out
I
here,
am
you're able
certified.
to give like sound advice. You're putting in the work. You have the knowledge. You've invested in yourself. Knowing that that challenge is going to come about when you have the information, tools, and resources that is needed.
Mm-hmm.
But just because you don't have a certain status, you may
Mm-hmm.
be looked at differently. So,
And that's okay. I've been looked at like that all my life, even being a minister of music for years. I think my pastor started me off being minister of music. I think I may have been 19. So being in leadership and being a woman, a single woman in leadership, is nothing new to me. Has it been difficult? Yes. Why? Because everybody think you want their man.
ooh,
Yeah, I said it.
that's a
I
conversation
said
that
it.
people don't want to have.
They don't. And when it really boils down to I'm doing a job, and when I'm given something um, to oversee, I'm going to do that thing, right? And because we live in a male dominated patriarch, I always screw that word up, patriarchy.
Patriarchal.
Yeah, y'all know society. Then it's always gonna be the other woman, right? And I'm not even the other woman for nobody. So being in that position of leadership, people are usually used to it being a man. You know, people are used to hearing men or receiving from them even more. So it's not something that I haven't been, you know, in or whatever. I've been perceived a
Okay.
lot. I've been perceived a lot, and that's okay. That's quite all right. But when it comes to that, I used to have a conversation. It's interesting how uh there are some married women that think that they're better than or greater than,
Mm.
because but then it also speaks to why does this thing supposedly add value to me, whereas a single woman, so what does that say? I don't have value. I don't have value.
Absolutely, that's not what that means.
Right. And then when you look at it, if we it's past the 8 o'clock service said something so so interesting, because you keep saying it, because we know everybody having sex.
They
He
fucking.
said where y'all, and it threw everybody for a loop. The church got quiet. He was like, because if I follow some of y'all home, y'all having sex and drinking and doing drugs anyway. Everybody was like, oh, and it was kind of like you could feel the "don't follow me home" in the church. So it's like we have to definitely take ourselves out of these things. Like, is what this person presented to me valid information? Why do I have such a pushback on the validity of one person and not the other? Because the married person, man or woman, could be giving you all this information, and they relationship at home is a hot mess. Let's be for real about it. So, I think we have to. It's gonna take time for some people to get out of that mindset. It won't be everybody getting out of that mindset, but those that are not of that mindset will definitely be able to receive from what we have to offer as sex coaches and sexologists.
And so I want to y'all forgive me that we are just talking about it at this point because sometimes we take for granted because we are in this world that people may not even know what a sex coach is. You said the wow factor, and
Yeah.
that is pretty amazing because now I introduce myself a certain way. And
Right.
I talk about my current profession and I talk
Right.
about what I'm transitioning into. And I say sex coach or sexologist.
You
And
teach people
even
how
if
to
you
have
don't,
sex.
yeah, even if you don't mean it for the wow factor, people perk up because people want to talk about, they want to know about sex. So let's deviate a little bit now and talk about like what is a sex coach?
Okay, so I wanted to, and I'm so glad I was prepared for this because I wanted to give you guys the real definition. I didn't want to go off the top of my head, right? So, a sex coach, as a sex coach, this is what we do. We help individuals or couples explore and improve their sexual wellness, intimacy, and overall pleasure in a healthy, safe, and non judgmental way. We also provide guidance on communication.
Communication is gonna come up, I think, no matter who I talk to.
Yes. And it's so important. It's so important. Oh God, I love communication. Even I used to suck at it, but I like it now because I found my voice. Case about it. So guidance on communication, self-awareness, big deal, and techniques to enhance their understanding of their bodies and desires, all while focusing on helping them find what works best for their unique situation. Was that good?
That was great.
Okay.
And sex coaches, I think it's just such a big range of
Mm-hmm.
how you can be a sex coach because
Yeah.
here we are both talking our products of the same education,
Mm-hmm.
similar backgrounds, but wanting to do very different things as sex
Mm-hmm.
coaches. So we've kind of heard her mention the fact that she ties in, she wants to tie in the ministry,
Mm-hmm.
she wants to tie in the youth aspect, places where she's already grounded, has
Mm-hmm.
relationships, already has this certain view of her, this
Yeah.
certain trust as a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to go into those realms, whereas my reach and my art, my purpose, I feel, is just totally different from that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a range. Like there's some
Yeah.
people who do hands-on sex coaching.
Yep.
There are sex coaches who possibly go in and watch you perform with your partner or partners and give you tips. There's so
What's
many
it called?
different,
Real time coaching. You can get real time coaching in the classroom, but real time.
and it's a needed thing.
I mean, yeah.
And I feel like maybe eventually, as you settle in more into like what you are, become more self aware
Mm-hmm.
about it. And I
Yeah.
know it's been the same thing for me because my journey is starting to look a little bit different, which
Mm-hmm.
is why I have people like her in my bed, just talking about tools and tips that you can
Yeah.
have in order to be more sexually educated, more sexually
Right.
fulfilled. Because I just can't help but say it like, and I can't say we all, nothing is 100%
Right.
totality, but people doing it. So you may as well be as educated
Mm-hmm.
and equipped as possible. I mean, it doesn't just come down to tips and techniques.
It
It
does
comes
not.
down to that stuff like communication, being
Mm-hmm.
self-aware, tackling those
Yeah.
shadows that we have going on.
Yeah.
So my goal is to always speak to the whole person, not just
Right.
speaking to certain parts of a person. We're talking about mental, physical, spiritual
Mm-hmm.
wellness, and this where this comes in. So I also want to talk a little bit about, since you told people like what a sex coach is and
Mm-hmm.
what they do, and a little bit of how you plan on using your skill set. What was the path to becoming a sex coach?
Um. So the path was we enrolled at, well, first I had to choose that I want to do sex coaching, relationship and intimacy. Right? Was that those are two? Yeah, yeah, because you can't do level two. Or you
Without
want to,
number one.
right, 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 right. So initially I was gonna I said, well, let me do, relationship and intimacy, trying to tiptoe into it. Like, let me, and then I'll admit, even then in my mind I was like, well, relationship and intimacy sounds like it'll go over a little better.
You're right.
It was a little, And so then I had a conversation with you and Michelle, and it was just like the sex coach aspect covers pretty much all of it. And there was that accountability factor in it, because Lord knows, y'all, me and self pacing, yeah. So I definitely needed that accountability. So it was a 20-week class, lots of preparation for it. Um, and like, you mean like the process, like through going through the classes
Yeah,
or
just a little
approaching?
brief. Like, because there may be some people, somebody out here listening,
Mm-hmm.
saying that sounds pretty cool, and we know that there is
Mm-hmm.
enough work to be done in
Mm-hmm.
that. Even you and I with similar backgrounds, similar paths, like you're gonna reach certain people, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
reach certain people,
Right.
and there's enough work to be done to where this could be,
Yeah.
spread amongst many. So
Absolutely.
someone may be listening saying, "Wait, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I
Yeah.
didn't even know I could do that."
And certified, not self-certified, not self-proclaimed, baby. We certified. We got numbers. We got certification numbers.
Because I'm gonna back
Right.
up. Sex coaching and sex education
Mm-hmm.
are non. Um, I can't remember. So basically, if you want to, you can call yourself a sex coach, like
Right.
real life.
Right.
But personally, I mean, I think you and I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm gonna call myself something, like I want to be it, and
Right.
I understand that we are constantly learning, constantly being poured into, constantly having new experiences. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like oh, I got these letters, I'm certified, because sex is
Right.
changing daily. Like somebody is
All the
creating
time.
something about sex or kink or something right now
Right.
as we speak, and we need to know about these things. So we will say,
Right.
I will say that it's a non-protected field. I would say,
Right.
but I think just investing in yourself,
Absolutely.
putting in the time and work and effort. And I always say, most times people don't want to work. Like that shit is
Yeah.
hard. It ain't easy to have your regular life, dealing with regular stuff that's going on, having a regular job, doing your extracurricular stuff, having some semblance of a life. I'm already degreed, so now I'm gonna go back to school to learn some
Sure.
shit that I can maybe read in the book. It makes such a huge
It
difference.
does.
So that's why I kind of wanted you to just talk about the path
Mm-hmm.
of like what it took and what do you think the benefit was versus just saying, well, I mean, I done read a few books. I can tell you about sex. I'm a sex coach, and
Mm-hmm.
not to put anybody down who
All
has gone
right.
that route, because we have didactic learners. Even though we're certified,
Right.
like I'm still purchasing books, I'm still talking to people, I'm still learning, and I know
Right.
you're doing the same
Right.
hands-on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little bit more about like the process and somebody who's interested in doing something like that, what they could do.
Okay. Well, I will say that initially, when I decided to do this, it really wasn't a self awareness thing. Like, I found out that becoming a sex coach, you have to be self aware. So it kind of like put me in that position. But I was like, shoot, I want to be that girl with my husband. I want my husband to be all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me learn some of these things. And that's another. I heard you say kink. Like, some of y'all, y'all scared of that word too, baby. Look, listen, learn what a hey black child. Learn what you must learn. Know what you must know. I don't even know, but I know that part of the poem. But no, but in all seriousness, um, I I talk to Doc a lot, and I just, she is a wealth of knowledge. I love it. And just her outlook on sex and the body and spiritual, it's just amazing, and it was very refreshing. So I was like, dang, okay, I get this. So initially, I started, just asking her questions, and so then she brought up Pleasure Masters Institute, and I still, when you mentioned it, I was like, okay. It was like, okay, what you I was like, oh, Michelle called you and everything one day. He was like, this Jami. I was like, hey, and I went on by my business because I was like, girl, what did you introduce me to these people for? Because what? Like, I'm good. Like, I'll just learn from you, girl. Like, you got all these books here and stuff. I'm good on this. So, as I learned more from him, I'm like, dang, like, it just makes sense for me to enroll. So she told me about Pleasure Masters Institute, how she met Michelle, and when I went on the website, so she not only did she sent me the website. See, she know me because I probably wasn't gonna go look for it. But as I looked through it, I was like, dang, like, okay, cool. So when I saw the relationship and intimacy, of course, we always want to kind of tiptoe into something. I was like, well, maybe I could try this. It's gonna go over a little better, baby. Then I got kind of what you call it, counseled a little bit by you and E. Michelle. Was like, okay, well, this is what relationship and intimacy is. This is sex coaching is. And it just made a whole lot more sense. So I asked questions. I got understanding. I went to the website to see what they offered, and it worked for me. So I enrolled. Well, I had a little scholarship and a little and some support for philanthropy. All right. Praise God for philanthropy and scholarships, y'all. Okay. And it went from there. Went from there. I enrolled in the class, got my books, and I was like, oh, this like class. Oh, it wasn't no joking. It was class. And I'm gonna say this. This is my first certification or anything that I have obtained since my undergrad, getting my undergrad degree at Southern in 2006. So this is a big deal for me to do this. So it's a 20-week class. It's 20 weeks of lessons. And y'all, when I tell y'all, if this is something that you want to do, be ready to take yourself out of it. In a sense of when it's time for you to coach, you're going to coach different types of people. You're going to have so many different types of people that's going to come to you that need help. And sometimes you can't put yourself in it. Well, this is what I would do. No, it definitely teaches you to take yourself out of it and to just see the bigger picture. And it's also helped me just like even at work, people with different walks of life, right? It helps me realize like why do I have to feel judgmental towards what somebody else, you know, wants to do? They know how I feel, they know my beliefs, whatever, and that's fine. But it doesn't cause me to mistreat or to judge somebody else for what they choose to do. You see this? This is full of water. I drank this in mine. Unless you decide to book a session with me, and then your business is my business.
And we're gonna get into how you can book sessions with her.
Okay.
All right, y'all. So this has been great. You lose track of time when you talk about something that is so amazing
Yeah,
to you.
it is.
So we want to kind of wrap this up because again, the goal is to put more people in front of you who may speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a certain way of delivery, I have a certain background or whatever. You
Mm-hmm.
may not always relate to me, but there may be some other people you could relate to, or there may be something from you that speaks, from them that speaks to you. I'm sorry. So it's always my goal to do something that is healing for the soul. And we understand that we see certain people, we gravitate towards certain people. So let's talk a little bit about, even though this is very new for y'all. I'm so proud of her, y'all. I'm so proud of her. This is very new for you. Like
Very.
this is a new title for you. So now you introduce yourself as such, and you just said something about you drink water and mind your business until somebody books you. So let the people. I don't know if you have all your stuff in place because this does take time, but you may be better than me in this area because I know one of my friends told me he was like, "You want to do everything but coach, huh?" You coming up with all these different ideas of what you can do, and you can have parties, and you can do sensual sessions, but everything but coach, huh? But I think that Jamie or Coach Jamie, what are we calling you?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
We still working on that because it's still very surreal. It's still very surreal. I'm like a sex coach, like yeah, it's still very surreal. So we hadn't figured all that out yet.
So I know one thing is just kind of even like, yeah, you want to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know all the cliche around that,
Yeah.
but sometimes it takes just starting, and there may be
Mm-hmm.
somebody listening right now saying, I'm in that very same situation, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm in ministry, or I'm in the church, and people are looking at me a certain way, but I'm very much so this person as well. And you
Right.
may speak to that person, and they may want to speak to you, and hopefully you won't be running. So
I don't
hopefully you're
run.
taking some time to get it all together. But for now, even if you don't have a website or if you don't have your plan out,
Mm-hmm.
how can people reach you? And what are you okay with people talking to you about or asking you? So, like right now, where you are in your
Mm-hmm.
journey, give information that you would be willing for people to reach out to you if they want to talk to you or possibly book a session.
Okay. You can follow me on my Instagram at She is Jami. That's Jami, no E. Okay. and just inbox me. I also have my email linked to my Instagram as well. So if you have any questions that I could possibly help you with, that's fine. If I can't, then I'm pretty sure that I could outsource you and point you in the right direction. So just follow me on Instagram as she is Jami. Mhm.
And I feel like this won't be the last time you see Coach
It
Jamie in the
probably
bed
won't be.
because we just peel back a small layer of who she is. But she ain't running, and we gonna let people take their time. Cause I'm peeling back layers myself, becoming
Yeah.
comfortable with this. I think this has been a great conversation in helping
Mhm.
people understand that you can be multiple things. You can be respected
Absolutely.
in the church and the ministry. And once this
Absolutely.
airs, I'm sure she may get a little pushback, but she decided at this point that she was ready for that
Yep.
because she feels like this is her purpose as well. And I know that she is doing amazing things. I am so proud of this lady, and I'm looking forward to the growth that she is going to have. Like I know for sure, without a doubt, it's coming. She's willing to put in the work. She's innovative. She's professional. She is a wealth of knowledge herself, and she
Trying to
motivates
be.
me in ways that she doesn't even understand. And she talks about me and say that I don't take any bullshit from her, but I know I gotta be on my shit when I go talk to her as well.
Because we got work to do, girl.
Cause
We
I
got
was
work
I
to
was trying to
do.
skate around some shit and not get shit done. And she's like, "That's cool, and your ADHD could be acting up, and mine might be too. But let's get to number three
Yeah.
on this."
Back up. Back up.
So it is a mutual dance, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing your growth and our growth within the community.
Mhm.
So that's it.
Spoiler, but we are going to be doing some work on disabilities and with mental
Yes,
disabilities and uh kink and all of those things because all these things are connected. I know people like, oh, they diving too deep, but it's a very real
it
thing.
is.
So
It is, and I'm looking
doing
forward
a
to
lot of
that.
research on that. So I'm excited about that.
Me too. Me too. So we will be bringing you more stuff that is definitely, hopefully healing to your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all. I hope y'all enjoyed this session. Again, if you're looking for a coach, you can reach out to Jamie, and her information will be listed so you can actually see it. You can
Mm-hmm.
also follow me at Doc Phoenix 7. And if you are interested in becoming a part of our community or
Mm-hmm.
having a space to actually play and explore and expand on your sexuality and kink, I encourage you to click on the link in my bio to get vetted for our exclusive Kiki community. So that is all. It has been great talking to you. Thank you so much
I
for
like her.
getting in my bed. And
Bye,
that is all. Until the next time. Later.
everybody.